Hello, everyone, and thanks for giving us your time today for VR Gamescast. I'm Ian Hamilton in New York, joined by Don Hopper in Missouri, as we discuss what people are playing in VR headsets. We're in Quest 3 headsets, and each of us is wearing last generation Meta avatars. We're using hand tracking with built-in microphones. We've got Beck out there in Canada, holding on for dear life, with some kind of illness in our ears. I feel terrible every time she makes a sound because
Oh
of how
God.
ill she is. Please feel better soon, Beck. We're live here. We can see comments on this area here. We'd love to see developers out there in the community piping up today. Just published one of my articles about Behemoth, Skydance's Behemoth, right before we came in here. So we'd love to have a discussion with our audience about that as we get into it in the studio. And if there's any devs out there, we'd love to have an active discussion about this very difficult time of year. Had a very tough discussion with the senior vice president over there, and gosh, the choices devs have to face this time of year are not easy. Don, what do we have today?
Yeah, Ian. Well, today I think we start out with some discussion about a lighter subject. One of our favorite new mixed reality apps officially launching now on Vision Pro, which is Figmin XR. And then, I'm going to pick up the conductor's wand for a minute and give my impressions of the new Harry Potter and Fantasia based DLC that just launched yesterday for Maestro. And then after that, I think we take a second to discuss a cool new holiday update for Dungeons of Eternity. I love that game. Super cool dungeon crawler. And then I think it's time to talk about taking down naked giants in Attack on Titan VR. And then I think we finish up with that discussion around Behemoth's launch and the efforts that Skydance has put in to fix the issues that the game suffered.
Yeah. So how high Awana is that? How
How
high Awana
high?
in our comments is asking, why are you hiding in the shadows? Where are you, Dawn? So
Here
Dawn
we
is
go.
Gray Dawn.
Yes.
Gray Dawn is life here in the
Great
studio.
on.
So
Yes.
our current theory, this is just a theory at this point, is that Meta servers have eaten Don's previous generation avatars and no longer serving to
Mm-hmm.
his account his previous generation avatars as Meta prepares in the next few months to switch over to the new avatar system that they're planning to roll out and we're planning to
Yeah.
adopt eventually in this studio. But we're
Because
very
like,
busy, have a lot of coverage to get through,
oh yeah.
and Don's avatar doesn't matter to Meta, nor does it matter to David Heaney, apparently. So,
Yeah, and
sorry,
and guys, I have done everything I can possibly think to fix it. I have reset headsets. I went and bought a Quest 3S over the weekend, trying, maybe if I got a new headset, I wouldn't be Lord Greydon here. But it's starting to stick. I don't know. I'm literally tempted to just ask Meta to just make this my avatar
well, so that's
permanently.
the problem. Is so Mr. Lord Beavis is saying get with the times and make a new avatar. So we talked about it before we came in here. If he
Well, I
goes and
did.
tries to edit an avatar in the system, it's the new
It's
future avatar
my
system, right?
new, very, very Final Fantasy looking. It was so funny. Like the very first time it auto generated my avatar, I kind of looked like Sephiroth from
Little
Final Fantasy 7 with short hair. It was insane.
Little
So
Scampy, did you have the full Ready Player One experience? Did you read Ready Player One, the book,
you
where the
should.
main character did what you are describing in the comments? I'm not going to get more descriptive than that. If you read the book, you know.
Hmm.
Um,
Oh yeah.
what do we got to talk about here
So I think
next?
we were
I've been
gonna,
really
like I said,
distracted by these
we
commenters,
yeah,
Don.
yeah, yeah. That's all good, man. Like I said, we're gonna start out. I think you were gonna tell us a little bit about Vision Pro coming to. I'm sorry, Figment XR coming to Vision Pro.
Yeah, so this was a big one coming tomorrow, or it'll be already out if you're listening to this podcast after the fact. This is what I would call the best mixed reality app on Apple Vision Pro. And Don, you had amended that.
I,
How do
my
you amend that?
amendment is actually it, since I have now seen this across multiple systems, I'm going to call it the best mixed reality app period at this point. I mean, there's so much to do there. So many hours that you can just go in, creation tools, other things that you can experience from other creators and users. So it's just, I have not found any other mixed reality app that has kept me engaged the way that Figment has.
Yeah, and I described it in my write-up, but I've spent more time in Figment XR in Vision Pro than I have any other
Hmm.
single app, and it kind of spending all that time inside of Figment kind of proves out that it's a content bottleneck on that
Hmm.
headset,
Yeah.
even worse than the content bottleneck that is on Quest 3. It's just that much more severe. And then I, put on Figment XR with eye tracking, hand tracking, not just both like raycast hand
Hmm.
tracking, where I'm sending a ray across the room and pick it up at a distance, sort of like uh, Half-Life Alyx in a way, kind of that same gesture system. And
Hmm.
then also direct interaction. You grasp things and move them around the room with the grasping gesture. All of it fantastic. And then you've got the keyboard entry system where you just look at the menu system and then pinch. All of that is fantastic, and that is he said he was pricing it to parity with the Quest 3 version, so $20 on
Yeah.
Quest, $20 on Apple Vision Pro. You've got co-location you could potentially do in there, where
Well, yeah.
you it's automatic, I think, on Quest headsets potentially. Or I
I
haven't
think he's
yet
working
experienced
towards
this.
that. I don't know that it's fully co-located automatic. I'm going to have to look into that, but I know we had some fun. Like, God, what was it? We spent almost 2 hours in there the other day just playing around with the co-location between Quest 3 and Vision Pro. And I know you did that locally in your own house, but we did it
Hmm.
across states. And I could see you in my living room as a little blue blob walking through my space. And I think one of the coolest, and I think we touched on that a little bit in a previous episode, but one of the coolest things from our experience there, I think, was when we started walking around the houses. And you were like, okay, walk back to your office, and you saw how far I could walk, and I can even cross rooms. So like I had multiple rooms set up in the Quest, and you watched me walk from my living room, disappear slightly as I went through my kitchen, and then reappear once I got to my bedroom office. And then you did the same. You're like sketching out where your TV is in your house. I mean, you could literally blueprint your house and have somebody walk through it. It's insane remotely.
Well, so what I tried, so I got in there for a few minutes with Javier
Uh-huh.
Davalos, the creator of Overlay, the person behind Overlay, the company behind Figment XR. I got into headsets with him, so we were both in Vision Pro, and I wanted to see if we could have a spatial persona call. So using our
Oh,
avatars as captured by Apple and captured by the headsets themselves, and then co-locate those avatars with the space inside Figment, and it was a failure.
yeah.
The headsets did not want to
Hmm.
multitask, such that led us into we weren't allowed to have Figment and XR open at the same time as our spatial persona call, so we were unable to do that last dream, right, where you as Dawn,
Yeah, that
not
would be
Gray
awesome.
Dawn, Dawn can appear inside my room with me. So it wasn't quite there. I can't wait for a platform to do that with Figment, but I feel like it's right there. Like
Oh, it's so
he can
close.
really pull it off.
So close. I have no doubt. I mean, I've watched Javier do amazing things for the last 5 years across multiple platforms, like I said. And, now that it's on Vision Pro, I guarantee you that's probably something that's on his radar, because the one thing that threw me off is, like I said, the avatar is missing. So, like, when you did come into my room as just the blue blob, I at least wanted to see you as I see you here in the studio, and I know
Well,
we've had that in other mixed reality apps. So I know it's possible.
it's a fascinating solution he's got in Figment XR, where it's like a transparent blue
Hmm.
orb.
Hmm.
So it will show you what's actually there if there's someone actually there with you in the room. So like if you
Oh,
co-locate into the same room, the way it worked with my kid, and when we're co-locating it so beautifully, I don't know if we're showing it on the TV. We probably didn't prepare the video, but he walked into a tilt brush painting right in my living room. And so I'm sitting on the couch in the most comfortable position possible in my Vision Pro, and he has set up a tilt brush painting in our living room right in front of us. and I watch him walk into it. And what the system does, this little blue blob, is it cuts out the blob for his head. So it's now
Oh,
showing him walking into the painting, and it's a perfect
okay.
composite of these two realities. We're just a little itty bitty bit of the real world, but just the exact bit
Okay,
I
now
want to
that
see,
is
right? I
just
want to see his
cool.
head movements.
That is so cool. I mean, yeah, and that, you know, that's I don't know, that's just the magic of it. I mean, you know, we were playing with the Sketchfab models, similar. Like we were talking about, you know, oh, I wonder, like if we ever got these avatars, could we just import a studio model and try to do something similar to what we're doing here inside Figment? And it was interesting that we just dropped that studio model right on my floor. I'm seeing you walk around in it. You're seeing me walk around in it. So, sky's the limit with Figmin, guys. I tell you, if you have not experienced Figmin on the platform of your choice, being, you know, I mean, it is out currently on. Let's see, you can still probably find the old Nreal. I know if you have the Hololens, you can probably still get it there. Now Vision Pro, Quest. I mean, grab a copy of this and just experience it. You will not be disappointed.
So, yeah, I totally agree. It's a device independent service. So, get into your Figment account, log into
Hmm.
that, and then you can activate multiplayer services. And the room scanning is beautiful.
Oh, it is.
You in most of the platforms or some of the platforms, you can turn on the room scanning option in the menu. I also tried to get co-location work. I tried to get Figment XR running on Tilt 5,
I
and
saw
it
that.
works, but
Okay.
I was trying a really modified weird system with it, so it wasn't working great the way I wanted to get it to go.
Yeah.
But on VR headsets, and I don't know if this would be true for AR headsets, but you can turn on the room scanning mesh and see what the headset sees of your room's geometry. And when I did this with the video yesterday, you could look up and see that it really could not see the mirror whatsoever,
Hmm.
that it was just a black hole on the wall. And there were other little like things it could seem like it was revealing, like people and animals are not detected by that meshing
Okay.
system.
Okay.
Like it seems to be they're just left out of a lot of those. I don't know if it's a different
I don't know.
part of
In
the
a way, that's
system,
a good
but
thing. I mean,
yeah, it's amazing to view the system this way.
yeah, because I got to tell you, every time I'm doing a room scan with my Quest 3 and one of the kids walks through the room, then you get the little ghost image and then you got to like scan it back out. And, you
Mm,
know, so if it is truly omitting pets and people as you're doing a room mesh scan, that's amazing.
yeah. Well,
So
and then the other thing I did was that you turn that scan on, it feels like X-ray vision. You can
it
turn off
does.
all the lights in your house
Yeah.
and walk around based on the mesh with your hands out in front of you as just a proof of concept. It works. And this is like, as Donna's sort of hinting at, this is a playground. It's a big, giant sandbox
Hmm.
playground, and it is coming to Apple Vision Pro. And after a year of these apps that use these basic panes of content with little things you can look at to select, it's really a delight to see someone think so deeply about the interface that they've been given. So that is out on Apple
Yeah.
Vision Pro. After we publish this, we'll link our article where you can get that link from that article to go check this out. If you're an Apple Vision Pro owner, highly recommend go and getting this app, if only
Oh,
to
yeah.
co-locate with a Quest 3
Yeah.
owner.
That's amazing.
um you can now experience something together. Take a digital object and hand it from one person to another. Yeah, it's what Don and I dream of doing here in this studio, and
Yeah.
we cannot
And,
because of the
and
way VR is architected.
And it was. I mean, just kind of finishing up this, and then we'll kind of segment into the Maestro stuff. But Ian, it was a magical experience. Like when you were passing me things, and then to have like you're creating a web surface, and then I'm able to interact with it, and you're able to interact with it. So it opens up just so many possibilities. I mean, you know, it opens up productivity applications. It opens up gaming. It opens up. It is like I see Figmin as almost like it could become its own platform in a way. So
Pearl mentioning that you can do that in Resonate. You can, of course, do that in VR chat, right? You can
This is
hand
true.
objects, and
This is true.
this is a pretty entry level thing for those sort of social platforms. What's interesting here, partially, is that it is very rooted in mixed reality to
That's
begin
what I was
with.
gonna. That's where I was
Everything,
going. Yes, mixed
yeah,
reality.
everything Javier and Figmin XR is about mixed reality first. So as Don sort of he talked about it already, but once we had the same scene center and same reference point, um, then he started outlining things in his environment for me to see. So he did his TV, but then he walked all the way to his office at the other end of his house, and I got to see the path from one location to the other, and through that path, make a mental map by
Mm-hmm.
watching him of what his house looks like just from that.
Yeah.
Now, there's all this other stuff you could add on to that, right? Like you could make a more detailed map, but really easy for us here, not in the too distant future, to say, here's my play space and the 5 items I want to share from my play space with other visitors. Don, you could do the same with yours, and we line up the edges of our play spaces together. Henry could take a spot over there. Kyle could Kyle could take a spot against that edge,
Mm-hmm.
and we could connect our offices together in this kind of way, right? Like Kyle's 5 items includes his headset,
Yeah.
his computer, his display, your headset computer, your display, Henry's computer headset display. And we all have this conversation here across our offices in mixed reality. Well, that's it has to be done in mixed reality for that to
Yeah.
work.
That
All
would
of the
be insane.
objects need to be part of what you're doing.
Yeah, and I mean, you just described literally having a co-located physical office space that's actually virtual. So it's like one of us has the physical space, and then everyone else comes in, and we all have our own cubicles in a virtual office that's rooted in reality in one person's space. That
Little
isn't as incredible. That's just, oh, my mind is like exploding right now. So
yeah, little Scampy is saying, wait, are you talking? Arlen's talking about haptic gloves. It's funny that do I have my wall here? Where is my wall? I've got the mime wall that I can press up against. But little Scampy saying, "Hey Meta, please don't share
yes,
my dirty laundry in this play space." Yes, that is the ultimate
that is.
concern. And even as we're having this conversation, I got what does Meta call it? Enhanced location services or enhanced
Oh,
spatial services, I think is the pop-up that Meta is putting on, and it says not now as the decline. So I'm going to
okay,
keep hitting the not now on that until Meta forces my consent,
okay.
which is what always that the not now seems to imply. But I do wonder what enhanced
Well, you have multiple
capabilities will be
multiple
unlocked
headsets.
by.
Go see if you can put it on just one of your headsets and
Yep,
see
exactly.
what it is. Yeah, I now you've got me curious because I have not seen that pop up yet. In fact, up until right before the show, I think it may. I did not check, but I've still been waiting for V72. So
Yeah. But
yeah,
all right, so I forgot to thank our patrons at the beginning of the show. I did
we
want to make
we
that
we
call out,
should.
and
Yes,
we did no pre-promotion on this show whatsoever. We went live very quickly.
we
Beck,
did.
like, is hopefully alive by the end of this show. I hope you're okay, Beck. I'm legitimately worried about you. I can no longer hear you in my ear. All right, Beck is saying they're
She's
fine, so
saying,
I've
yeah,
confirmed proof of life. But yeah, we went very suddenly here just to
yes,
make
we did.
sure we could actually do it. So thank you, Beck, for pulling it together and getting us live here. And then I see our view numbers are going up. We're going to build up through the course of
Yeah,
this
we
discussion,
will.
I think, through to the big subjects
It
at the
usually
end that
does,
people want us to talk to.
and I think kind of what you're alluding to. I'll make the shameless ask, guys. If you don't mind, give a like. Share out the link to everyone so that we can get everybody in here because we're going to be talking about some pretty cool stuff throughout the rest of the show, leading up to a big subject that I know we're definitely going to want to spend some time talking about. So
Patrons include Mike Manzano, HoloNet, Podum, the developer of Smash Drums, and then XR Developer News. Thank you so much for your support. I've seen some new members join on the website as well.
Mm-hmm.
Some commenters popped over to the website and joined the membership over there. Thank you to our supporters over there. We did see a drop from Mark Schramm, who sprinkled dozens and
So
dozens
awesome.
of codes, free games from developers all over our comments. The video, Best in VR Games, go take a look at that over on our channel. It's getting some good views. And then from that link in the description, as well as just the link in the title of the video itself, go check out all of those games. You can wish list them or buy them very, very quickly to support some devs out there trying to make an impact on their own out there as indie devs. That is going to be part of the discussion as we get into Behemoth later on in the show. Is I'm very scared and worried for devs out
I am.
there. My heart goes out to them during this incredibly difficult year. At the same time, we've got to balance that with really balanced, thoughtful takes of
I
whether the
agree.
software is good. And so we're getting into that as we get through all these, as we get to it in time. I've been really impressed by Don and Henry Stockdale out there divvying up the content, being clear-headed here about sort of when to assess it, right? Like, is day one really the fair day to assess some of the software, or is it day 7 that we
Yeah.
should really assess some of the software? So that's something to think about, with which we deal with. All right, Don, what do we got next?
Well, I just want to say good great evening to Sampler 19 as well. Yes, it's a great evening. Next is one of my new favorite rhythm games in VR. And from our discussions, I'm not a rhythm guy. I'm not. That's not my thing. Even Batman. I love that game, but I hate the fighting because it's rhythm based. I'm just not a rhythm player. But there's something magical about Maestro. And now there's really something magical about Maestro because yesterday they launched the Secret Sorcery DLC pack. And in my original review, one thing I distinctly remember, and of course I said Star Wars, but I said I wanted to conduct a John Williams score because to me, when it comes to movie scores, John Williams is just the pinnacle. So being able to conduct Hedwig's thing was amazing. And then moving into music that I have been hearing since my childhood with Fantasia and, Sorcerer's Apprentice, it was just, I don't know, it got me so nostalgic and giddy and magical. And then, of course, I did the drum major thing in high school. So it just all came together. But it was something about having that familiar music, that comfortable music that I've heard all my life and am more familiar with than some of the classical music and some of the jazz and swing that came out in the original song pack that really connected me more with this game and just brought it home.
Yeah, I talked to Doug North Cook over there at Creature, that is the label that is associated with Maestro, as well as so the devs are over there in France, and they've leaned into this narrative of you having to please a French audience with
Yes.
your conducting and bring culture to the world. I
Mm-hmm.
love this idea. It's a very fun narrative to have been invented from them. And then this is a game that belongs on Apple Vision Pro.
God, it
It
needs to be.
really needs to be on Apple's system, Apple's headsets. And then what was it? Maestro or so. Creature was also associated with Thrasher,
Mm-hmm.
which got Apple Vision Pro Game of the Year, I think.
Yeah, I believe.
And or at least as selected by Apple itself. I mean, on its
I can
own
see it.
storefront. And then so you're starting to see these games surface to the top from the end of the game releases this year. Those are games that are all going to be looking for downloads around Christmas time as they all get headsets. And Maestro, this thing that reinvents hand tracking
It really does.
rhythm games. It's it's like it's kind of incredible to me that they followed up these this quickly with these incredible games following such a big release. Like if you're going to play, if you're going to do, if you're going to be an air conductor, these are the songs you want to play,
Oh God,
right?
yeah. Oh, absolutely. Well, I mean, I mentioned in my original review, and I think like Chrome Colossus here is talking about it. But he's talking about it in the vein of Beat Saber, but he's talking about like the Darth Vader's, the Imperial March and things like that. Those are the songs I want to play. I want to conduct James Horner's Wrath of Khan. I mean, that is like one of my favorite soundtracks of all time. And I could see eventually. I'm not saying that they have said they're going to do this, but I could see eventually that path where we might be able to bring in custom tracks, and mod the game. I can also see this now starting to become like Beat Saber. I really want to see licensed music packs starting to come for this game. Give me a licensed music pack that gives me the complete collections of John Williams, or, oh God, who was the guy who did oh, no, never mind. I'm going to go down a rabbit hole trying
I
to
love
find
that
the
you
name.
pointed this out, Don. I didn't really think about it in these terms, but it is saying something really significant to see John Williams' official music
Yes. Disney
embraced in this way by
Fantasia.
this
I
indie
mean,
dev, right?
yeah, absolutely. This is the beginning of something, Ian. I really feel, I felt that back in when Beat Saber first dropped too. I was like, this is the beginning of something. I know this is gonna.
Imagine Beat Saber, but bigger.
Yeah.
Imagine what like it feels unfathomable.
Mm-hmm.
It feels like it sounds ridiculous to imagine that, doesn't it?
No, God, yeah, no, it does. It does sound ridiculous, but I can imagine it. I can see it.
I can see
So
it too. I can see, this is, yeah, I could see it too. It's hard.
so
Beat Saber, but without controllers, like it's a hard sell.
well, it is,
Initially.
and look, this is probably, and I've said this, and I think this is like you were like taken aback the first time I said it. This is the first time ever that I preferred to put down my controllers and use my hands in a game because it felt natural. Now, in my little write up that I did on the thing, I even took it a step further. I picked up a chopstick. And I said, because I think I remember reading somewhere that they added the ability for me to have something in my hand and not affect the hand tracking. So I said, let's test that. And I picked up the chopstick, and something about the bounce of it, the weight of it in my hand bouncing in the air as I was hitting each note, I could feel that bounce, and it actually enhanced the game tenfold. And if you play in Maestro, if you got a little pencil or a chopstick, just anything you can put in your hand, do it. Now, that brings up something that I don't know if I've kind of alluded to. I would really, and I know it's not really for gaming, but I would love to see like the MX Inc. get support for this, so I could just use that as a perfectly tracked object.
Yeah, and it's cool to think you could use a pencil, right? You can use any object,
Yeah.
right? Just to sync up with that feeling, just get that little bit haptic effect. But also the one I've been thinking about, Don, is when we get watches and bands and
Yeah.
the haptic effects you get out of those,
Yeah.
synced up to what is happening in your open hands. You could get
Because that's
some
what's
really,
missing.
really cool
The
effects.
haptics is what's missing. It really is. And like I said, just having that little bit of weight and bounce from holding the chopstick in my hand gave me a sense of haptics, but more natural, real world haptics, So I don't know. It is definitely, I am all about anything that's going to take me deeper down that VR rabbit hole towards full immersion into these games. Now, before we close out this, I did want to mention it is not just music. There are other things that were added in this DLC. So you are going to get new sets of cosmetics, which are going to have magical gloves, a new wand, and a really cool background environment called the Coven. And I think I mentioned this. It was almost distracting sometimes. These environments that you're conducting against are so detailed, and there's nice little pops of effects in the background, and so it's like it almost serves as a distraction tool. As Ian is also a distraction tool right now, with his head buried in his monitor and grabbing things from the floor.
I gotta find my USB-C cable before I run out of power. I'm at 13%
don't do that.
here.
Don't do that. All right, we gotta Gotta get you all wired up there. But anyway, yeah, I don't know. As you can hear from my voice, this game just gets me excited for some reason, and I love it. It is great. It is another game. I know this is kind of a weird thing, but I'd love to see mixed reality come to this as well. Imagine if you have access to a theater, going and standing on a real stage and like pretending to conduct the orchestra in that environment. Just once again, another trip deeper down the rabbit hole. So
Yeah. So I really appreciated Don's context in the middle of that, saying he thinks it's the beginning of something big, because I do
I
want
do.
to echo that and amplify it. And I agree. I think Doug Northcote and Creature and what is it, Double Jack, the
Hmm.
developers in France,
Yeah.
are onto something really phenomenal there. And it's a story we're gonna have to I don't know if we're uniquely told this story, but I do want to amplify and sort of just note that this game was in obscurity
Yeah.
in a way before Creature took the game and helped it um, get onto the Quest store here at launch. So, but also just there's a lot of there's a lot of people along the way that would have helped Maestro
Oh,
get to
yes.
where it is, and it wasn't like an obvious journey. So as we see Maestro take this journey next year, and what is possible with this idea of open air rhythm gaming, we have to remember that it wasn't always going to be what it becomes, right?
Yeah,
Like let's take
absolutely.
this moment with our audience to say, just this, if it becomes big, and I think a lot of people here are hoping or thinking it will be, remember a time when that wasn't always the case, right? Beat Saber wasn't always going to be a done deal, killer mega hit for VR.
Hmm.
But imagine if what we're talking about here today actually comes to pass. Imagine something bigger than Beat Saber, uh, with more cultural impact than Beat Saber. Such a thing seems impossible right now, and like I want to suggest that it is possible,
Well,
even though like it's all the other things are going
no,
to
it
be
is.
true about this VR
It
market
is.
being so impossibly difficult in a
And I
lot
mean,
of
there's
layouts.
there's a lot of comparison going on to Beat Saber here, but I mean, I still do see those. They're both VR rhythm games, but I do see them as completely almost separate things. Like you said, I mean, Maestro is taking it a step further into kind of not simulation so much, but it's not just I'm sitting here with lightsaber slashing blocks to a musical beat. It's that I am conducting an orchestra, and and boy, they make you pay for it if you miss. The missed notes and I don't know if you've ever played it to a point where you failed completely, but turning around to face the audience scorn with their little social media bubbles that they're all the little tweets that they're sending out about your performance is just devastating. And
So
then when you do a great job, it's awesome.
so thank you to Luigi for tuning in this week, and
Hey,
you're
Luigi.
curious to know more about Grey Dawn. So you've got some answers out there in our comments about what Grey Dawn is and what Grey Dawn represents, but there could be plenty of different stories out there, so we'll leave it up to them
Yeah.
to set you off in the right direction.
Let's say it was a
What do we got next
transporter
on?
accident. I'm going to say Grey Dawn was a transporter accident. There we go. We'll tie
That's
it
a good
into our
one.
favorite thing. So next up is just a little real quick discussion on this one, Ian, and then because I know we really want to get towards the big subject today, but I love Dungeons of Eternity, and it is definitely one of my favorite new dungeon crawler type games. It is definitely one of the few games that I love to drop in with my friends and play because I'm not a huge multiplayer guy, but it's just something about this one really brings it home. For me, it's actually a bit of nostalgia, as it always is, for a game that you may remember from way back in the day. Carnage Chronicles on PC VR, and it has that same feel to me, but it needed one more thing, and that was a fourth person. because, well, dungeon crawling with 3 people, you got to have 4 people for a party, right? So they've added that now, as well as a bunch of other stuff for the holidays, including new monster types. They've optimized a ton of stuff in the game. So Othergate has a huge patch notes that they just released for this. You can do PvP now. There you can store trophies. You can store potions in your player room now. So it just really enhanced the game, not only for the holidays, but overall enhanced the game with this update.
That's awesome. Yeah, this title has been building for a long time. And is there a roadmap that's published with this of the future for this game?
I have not seen the roadmap yet, but I got to tell you, I was really happy to see the update.
Yeah, this is a big one. All right, what do we got next, Don? I want to move through this
Yeah,
show
no, I
as
know
we
you
get
do.
on to
I
the
know you
last
do.
few things.
So next is something that was, I'm going to call it uncomfortable in many ways for me. And that was Attack on Titan VR. Now, Henry Stockdale from UploadVR has a review in progress going on this right now. And he asked me if I would be willing to jump in to verify a few things for him and with him. So I did jump in. We had planned to play the multiplayer together because that's what he wanted to verify. He had played the single player campaign. He wanted to see if multiplayer changed some of his opinions of the game, which sometimes it can. Like I've said before, playing with your friends can really change even the most mediocre game into something fun because you're just playing with your friends and having fun. Well, I jumped in thinking, okay, cool. I'm just going to jump in with Henry for a few minutes and I'm going to check out the multiplayer. And then the game was like, no, you're not. You're going to do a tutorial and then you're going to do the whole first mission before I even let you play multiplayer, which was the first thing that rubbed me wrong. I mean, some people are not going to want to play the single player in something like this. They just want to play with their friends. They want to swing around and take down Titans. So Henry and I ended up having to wait almost an hour while I did the tutorial, while I got through the first mission, learned the mechanics, which was, I guess good because you want to learn how to play the game. But then I finally get to that point, and we tried for probably another 30 minutes and never, ever could get the game to match us. So we never did get to see multiplayer. I got what I would call pretty lackluster first person experience or first impressions experience of the first mission. It's fun. The swinging is fun if you do like that kind of mechanic and you don't have motion sickness issues and you can take it. But overall, the combat was just frantic and lackluster. The naked giants, I mean, I understand it's part of the show and maybe I'm just a little older and conservative, but I'm sorry, I don't want to be swinging around naked man butts. It's just not my thing. So if that's your thing, hey, more power to you. I just personally don't want to swing through and between the legs of a huge giant dude.
Well,
So
all right, now we're into the proper dress garb for giant titans attacking
yes.
humans, and this is a legitimate thing for us to discuss, I suppose, in VR,
Oh,
because we're getting into the last subject here, where you have other giants you have to crawl between the legs
well,
of,
those
and
giants are
like,
different. I mean, those giants aren't Barbie almost anatomically correct. So it's like, yeah.
oh,
So
there's female titans
yes,
as
I just
well
saw
in
that
that
too. I did not.
universe.
I
Wow,
have not
yeah.
seen any of the female titans in any of the launch materials or trailers. So that's interesting to know.
Well, and then Arlen, yeah, at least their faces aren't next level nightmare fuel. Yeah, we had the thumbnail for this episode picked out, and it's just like it's a combination of smile
It
with
is.
just something I really don't want to look at. And
Yeah.
yeah, James O'Loughlin talking about VR deserving a great kaiju game. So
Oh
as
God, yes.
that's where I want to go with Don's like discomfort with the design choices of these giants, right? Like clearly when we get to the behemoth subject and the idea of
Mm-hmm.
grappling hooking your way around a giant monster, kaiju behemoth monster, like it's gonna be a genre VR game, I
Oh, I
think.
can see it. And it was, and I'm not gonna lie, that part was fun. Like I said, the swinging around part was fun. It's just there was just so much other jank in the game. And it looks like Siegfried is saying he loved the attack on Titan combat. And it is interesting, but I found it just frantic and chaotic. It's like, and I didn't find it very accurate either. I mean, I know how to swing a sword, and I'm swinging at this thing's leg like 1,000 times, and then, it's just not doing anything. And then there were just bugs. I mean, like at one point, Henry had to wait extra time because I'm trying to do the first mission. The second Titan that's supposed to appear at the red smoke appears for a second, then disappears, and then I end up running all over the town trying to find him, have to literally go out to the menu, back in, out to the menu, back in, and then the Titan shows back up. So it's not so much the subject matter or the game, it's just that they took a very, very large IP like this, and I'm not gonna say that. Never mind. I'm not.
Well,
They could have done better with what
well,
they had to work with.
yeah. So and that's, I mean, so that's where I think we're hinting at, right? I feel like we're seeing the beginnings of a new genre here. Like I
Hmm.
feel like there's a lot of, well, so I talk. We'll get into it when we get into the
No, we
Behemoth,
will.
but it
Yeah.
is not easy to do this. Like the mechanics of a
No.
giant city, the mechanics of multiple people flinging themselves
Hmm.
around these giant objects, walking. It's like just the limitations are astonishing to making that all feel right. But I do think there's so many
There.
cool ideas you could have where you have like one person as a mech, one person as a giant Titan
Oh, that would be
monster, and then
phenomenal.
a whole bunch of flinging little people trying to take them down, like in Star Wars,
Oh, that would be so fun.
trying to fling themselves around the
Yeah.
legs of these
Yeah. Yeah.
things and
Yeah.
hack them up. Like
Well,
it's a cool.
earlier,
There's an idea there that could work well.
I was going to say earlier in the conversation, that's why I was sitting there going, oh, you guys got my mind thinking because you said kaijus, and then we're talking about Titans, and then we're talking about mech games, and or Henry and I were talking about mech games earlier, and I just put it all together. We need Pacific Rim. We need Pacific
Mm-hmm.
Rim and VR like now, multiplayer, both of us in a kaiju synced up. I mean, I'm sorry, in a Jaeger synced up, going after the kaijus. Oh my god, that would be incredibly fun.
It's funny. So James O'Loughlin's getting ready to go build a prototype, and I've seen these prototypes. Like I've seen, like I know, I think there was even a Pacific Rim sort of
Hmm.
like kaiju demo experience someone in the VR community built,
Okay.
and like it's hard. All of
It
this
would,
is
would be
hard.
hard.
The execution here is what we got to look for, but everyone wants it, right? Our commenters have absolutely, right. The Skull Island game, ready? I'm ready. Let's do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let's narratively get some kind of like Spider-Man people that inhabit Skull Island, right?
Hmm.
And then you've got to team up with either Kong or Godzilla,
Oh, that
and
would be so
Godzilla's
cool.
coming for the island, and you can either defend your Titan or you can try to take it down. Oh my God, I want
So
it.
here you
We
go,
got it.
developers who watch this show. We're like giving you free fuel right here.
Oh, we want it. All
Free
right, I want a
imagination fuel.
million of these games, right? All right,
So,
Don, what do we got
well,
next?
real quick, just last comment on that little scampy. Attack on Titan seems perfect for VR. Unfortunately, they didn't use the IP well, and that's exactly what I'm getting at. Is
Hmm.
that this is a major IP. When you have major IPs like this, like when we've seen it before with Hitman, I mean, don't you got to know you're going to be scrutinized. You got to know it as a developer. You're going to be scrutinized on that because this is something that is near and dear to some of your player base's heart. I mean, this is an IP. You gave me a Star Trek game and it was lackluster, I would tear you apart. I'm just saying. It's like,
Well, at the other, so on the flip side, if you're like, it just didn't land with you well, right? There's plenty of people that could just laugh their butts off for hours
well, that's what I told Henry.
doing
That's
this
what I told Henry.
ridiculousness, right?
And
Like,
that's
so I
why I
can
said the
understand that
multiplayer,
too.
the multiplayer would have been that, I mean, getting in there with my friends, laughing my ass off, I'm sorry. It's like, hey, but it just wasn't there. So I don't know.
All right, let's move on here. What do we got next?
Okay, well, next is exactly what we've been building towards, and that is your talk with Skydance and the impressions that we've seen so far with Behemoth and the patches and taking down the Behemoth. We got a lot to talk about here.
Yeah, we didn't, like I said, we didn't do a whole lot of promotion here before the show. So if there's any Skydance devs in the comments, please speak up. Let's
Yes,
keep this
please.
dialogue going. And I think that was kind of that was part of the pitch, or kind of the tone of my conversation with the SVP over there at Skydance yesterday. This has been it was a very uh, largely a jovial discussion where he was sort of like uh, being real with some of the things that they encountered. Like they released on Quest 2, 3, 3S, PSVR 2, and then surprise also on Steam, all in the same day. And in my article, he lays out Sean at Skydance lays out all the things that happened to them as they were bringing this thing to fruition. They said that the servers went down and they lost a week of work at
Hmm.
one point. Not like that all the files were saved, but because they couldn't access the files
Right.
for a long period, they were effectively done for several days. And I had asked Sean to explain like what's it like to realize that and get the diagnosis from your IT team that this is a serious issue that's going to last days. Um, so he went into that. He also I put in the article, you can go check it at uploadvr.com, the tattoo that Sean is
Oh yeah.
supposed to wear, inscribe onto his body as artwork from his team. He said he was going to he said he initially told his team that he was going to he was going to get this tattoo if the game reviewed well. Well, I was thinking about that offer, and that's kind of difficult if you have as many things happening all at once at the launch of this game that happened here, right? You've got uh because of all these things happening all at once, you had I tried the game out in November,
Hmm.
and it was missing animations, had some uh, placeholder stuff inside the game in mid-November. Now it is mid-December, and the game you played live on stream didn't have any of those
Right.
placeholder things. And then within a few days, they did a big update. I'm told that the Skydance devs are now on vacation. They're now
Oh, okay.
off, enjoying their
Much
holidays.
deserving. Much
So
deserved.
I
Yeah.
wouldn't expect them in the comments. This would be on their own time, supposedly, if they're at the comments right now. Hopefully, no one there at Skydance is still working on bug fixes at this point. The game is
It's
effectively done for the year. So that means it's our task to actually
yeah.
review the thing now that they've sort of walked away from it. Um, but the joke here was they did Quest 2, 3, PSVR 2, and then they got the okay from Steam an hour and a half after launch
Hmm.
that they could also release the Steam version according to their accounting of events. So then they pulled the trigger and released the Steam version as well. And the joke was I asked, what would be a recommendation next year for devs trying to release on multiple platforms? And he said, don't,
Yeah.
was the quick response.
I can
So I
see
wanted
that.
to repeat that.
Well, yeah. I mean, focusing on just one platform would have definitely been, more attuned to getting it where they wanted it to be on time. And, and another thing, and I'm going to say it, and I'm going to say it right here. And I know we always say we don't recommend the headset anymore. Developers, I implore you in 2025, please stop developing for Quest 2. Just please stop developing your games around Quest 2's limitations and embrace what you have in Quest 3 and beyond.
I think this was the last push for it.
I really
Really,
hope so. I really hope so.
you're getting to hopefully a minority of the user base after this holiday season being on Quest 2. Um, so a couple things that came up in this interview. We talked a little bit about Alien. So
Hmm.
uh, Sean mentioned Alien and their decision over at Servius to put the Quest version out into next year, allowing them to focus exclusively on PSVR 2 and PCVR. And here's where we get into. I'm going to put Don on the spot here because
Oh boy.
Don knows what he can't say, right? You can't say
I
certain things here.
I can't say a lot of things, but we will try.
Yeah. So Don, respect your embargoes and do not say the things you
I will
cannot say,
not say
right?
any of the things I will not say. I will not, but I will
But
say the things that we need to hear.
yeah, so that's one of the things that I think we're dealing with here on Upload VR is particularly around the Christmas season. Devs have like a limited number of time slots in which
Mhm.
to release their game, get it into reviewers' hands in the right quality state, get it onto the right platforms, and if they have to drop anything, it could have dramatic effects. If they
Big
release
time.
something that has too many bugs to fix, it could have dramatic effects on reception and all of those things. So what came up in this discussion with um, Skydance was just him acknowledging that it probably helped Servios a ton to put the Quest version of Alien Rogue Incursion out to next year. Just do the PSVR version, just do the PC version, and Don will have the breakdown on those things on UploadVR.com as soon as he is able to speak. He's doing the straight stare into
Mhm.
space as he
I
knows
am.
he's not allowed to
I
say
am. I am.
anything. So I'm not under
Yes.
embargo here technically, right? I mean, we are embargo as a team,
We
but I
we
didn't play
are.
it, so
Yes,
I'm
yes.
going to speak here openly and
And
say
you
that
saw the demo, so I mean you can speak on
yeah, I saw
your
this previous
experience in the
demo that I'm
demo.
not under
So,
embargo anymore for. Where like there's there's the OLED displays on PSVR 2. There's the extra lighting power that you can do with that
mhm.
headset. You can do the same things with extra lighting on on PC VR. And hearing them in that previous demo, so I went face to face with the creators at Servios who are building this game, and I went on a video chat with the creators at Skydance who are building that game. And you talk to these people who they've all got intentions that they're trying to meet. They're trying to meet what gamers really want. They're trying to surprise them as well, give them things they didn't expect and make them joyful. Well, we're gonna find out over the sales of this holiday season, over the reviews that Don and Henry put out there, that all the others out there put out there, which of these devs landed the right way, which ones didn't. And that has real implications in addition to all the other stuff, right? Like, going back here, Sean said that he was going to get a tattoo if the game reviewed well. And they also said at Skydance that um, they still followed through and did release on Quest 2, 3, PCVR, and PSVR 2 all on one day. And he said that he amended his agreement right before they did that to say, I'm getting the tattoo no matter what. No
Yeah.
matter what happens with reviews, which to me, we didn't discuss this in the interview. I'm saying it now openly to you, our audience, and like you too, Don. That implied to me a little bit of like, I'm sorry that the schedule got this crunched
It was so
into.
ambitious. I mean, it was so ambitious what they were trying to pull off. And, and I got to say, I mean, at launch, yes, there were some problems with the game, but I still enjoyed it. I'm still enjoying it today. And obviously, more so now that the bugs have been patched out. I mean, when that first time trying to take down the Behemoth and just touching his toenail and falling over dead was, kind of like, well, why is this happening? We kept, I was feeling like bad on that stream. Like, guys, I'm really not this bad of a player. It's the so. I mean, for them to pull off what they did, I mean, that's great. And I don't think apologies are necessary. It's like they really had an ambitious schedule. They tried to meet that schedule. They gave us another platform that we weren't even expecting on launch day. So,
No, so what I'm saying there is it was almost an apology to his team
oh, okay,
for
okay.
crunching their schedule
Sorry,
internally. That
I
not to the
misinterpreted.
audience. No, like it's an honor of their work was the way he
Yes.
was explaining it,
Oh,
and
and yeah,
the
I can see that.
commitment that they put in here. But also like at the end of the day, like they did confirm overtime. I use the word crunch to describe what must have happened here in the last few weeks to get this current game across the finish line. And all of that is ahead of this this Christmas push, right?
Mhm.
Like, how many sales is this game going to get on those Quest 2 headsets, Quest 3 headsets, 3S,
Mhm.
PC VR, and PSVR 2? You know, those devs come back in January. What kind of workplace do they come back to? What kind of invigorated leadership do they see? Do they see uh, new deals coming, new game projects coming very quickly in the offing? Do they get a bigger staff? Do they get a smaller staff?
Yeah.
That is the things we always worry about. And that was what we got into in this discussion, right? Like, if you start delaying on certain platforms, um, that has real effects on
It
budget. We
does.
had
No, it
the Not
does.
Suspicious Airspace Defender out there in our comments talking about that. And it's a real discussion. We have real devs in our audience discussing this with our community. And I have to, I'm a broken record on this show and on VR
You should
Download,
be.
where
You
like
should be.
we don't have, that's not a common thing. We have a nuanced discussion on this show and on VR Download about the real difficulties of this market, the discoveries everyone is making. And in fact, that was one of the pitches I kind of made here to Skydance, where like, Don, I would love, we don't have a lot of our member viewers here on this show, but if you're a member viewer out there, please pipe up in the comments. But I had this idea, Don, how great would it be to have the paying members of our community
Absolutely.
get onto a stream with you and have two of the devs from the game in the game with you. And at the outset of the show, we say, okay, hey, to our viewers out there, please don't record or share this footage out there. This is early access,
Right.
pre-release game footage that the devs have chosen to pop in to stream today with us, with Don Hopper, and with our audience to get feedback from early adopters about whether their game is on the right track.
I love that idea.
I would
I
love
think
to do that with devs.
well, I think
I think I've got devs already in the community that would love to do that with you.
well, I
But I
think that tightens that tightens the whole sphere of creation as well. I mean, because devs want that feedback and they want that early feedback as they're building these games, but they don't necessarily always want it from influencers and they want it from like real world people, but they can't give the game out. So I don't know. There's a lot of possibilities there, Ian.
Well,
That
like,
that
yeah, it's one of these things where like it feels like the devs are starved for real feedback early on at certain levels of
yeah,
development. You know, an influencer might not be willing to say, I hate this game,
exactly.
or
They
this
want
game
honest
is like
feedback.
not the right. uh Wiki People's asking what is up with Don's avatar. As I've said previously, we've explained that in the history books in the past, and now you've got to go to the people for the full story on
Yes.
what is up with Don's avatar. They have differing tales on what has happened here, so you'll have
There's
to
some
get to the heart of
lore
it.
and everything. Like there's like what were we like we were forming churches the other day,
Yeah, no, there's different sects and cults.
the
There's different sections. There's
Behemothians and
yeah.
yeah,
What Behemothians, right?
Behemoths or Mothians. Yeah, that was your church. I don't know. But either way, like back to Behemoth, it is what it is. It's out there. It is now patched. It is a fun game. I do highly recommend that you check it out. If you are going to check it out, I'm going to tell you my preferred system to play it on right now is PSVR 2. If you have that system, that is what I would recommend playing Behemoth on currently.
Yeah, so Chrome Colossus, is there a playtesting company that would help these folks with basic feedback? Wonderful question. There are companies out there that do
Oh, yeah.
things like that. There are mock reviews. That's one thing that some people who are
Hmm. I
experienced
used to do a lot
do.
of them. Yeah.
Yeah, we don't do them at UploadVR. It's just we try to serve the public with
Yeah, exactly.
the way we structure everything, and so that's why I was thinking about this in between sort of like early access, semi-private stream idea to help give feedback to some of these devs early on.
Well, there were companies
Um,
that actually did that. Like I remember back in the early days, I was
Fishbowl.
part Fishbowl. I was just about to bring up Fishbowl. Jeff Scow,
Yep.
and his company, and it was really cool as an early adopter to be part of a company like that that was helping these developers test. And I know there are other companies, I can't name them off the top of my head, that are still doing that. So if you are
Yeah.
interested,
No.
look, Google it. You'll find somebody out there. You can do some private play testing. They'll usually throw you a couple of bucks for it, and so.
But then that's the end. That's the opportunity here with our platform is not really charge for the
No,
play
no, I'm saying
testing.
that they
Use
would.
our
We
audience
wouldn't.
as
Yeah.
an amplification. But no, you're right. There are companies that do that, and I've even recommended out there to those companies to
Hmm.
do some of that mock reviewing, because it's so necessary. I love the dialogue we have with our audience.
I do
Arlen
too.
out there in the comments, James. We have such supportive discussion, and like if we could get to some of these things earlier,
Well,
devs would
and
be able to see like
our audience, Ian, is so informed, and they're up on everything. So I mean, these would be the kind of people that I feel that developers would really want to hear feedback from. So I think if we could make it happen, that would be great.
yeah. Well, yeah. So we'll explore that in the new year, and yeah, I did discuss that sort of with Skydance just to kind of throw it out there because I want to build on this rapport we have. Like I want to make it clear that we respect the amount of work that went into these games, the incredible differences that must have been implemented to change a game,
Yeah,
and our concern for jobs and livelihoods as they kind of
oh
have to
yeah,
reach market success, even when like the platforms themselves don't necessarily give them the airtime that they deserve. We're just a team
absolutely.
of a few people here, and we have been uh, putting our we try out every game that we possibly can, and the ones that become interesting to us, we end up spending more time. And uh,
I you know what
you'll see it reflected in
that
our
is so
reporting. Right,
that is so
Walkabout Mini
funny.
Golf is the cornerstone of my reporting because of how repeatedly good the quality content is that has come out of that team.
No, I was going to say, I'm sorry, I was trying to interject. It is so funny that you mentioned that, because I almost have a guilt that there are so many games and so many developers coming onto the stores now. I almost have a guilt when I can't play them all and give them feedback, and because I want to share so much with all of these developers, because they are the backbone of VR, guys. It's not hardware. These are the people that are creating virtual reality and mixed reality and augmented reality. I mean, yes, we have hardware to support that, but without the developers, without the software, it goes nowhere. So,
So, yeah, Onakazi, thank you for tuning in, saying that they look like they're catching up at the tail end. Yeah, I do want to apologize for like not sort of pre-promoting this. We
yeah.
want to. We've got so many tech issues that can pop up, including Grey Dawn, the Wise here.
We are so working on
That
it.
and let's cover before we get near the end here that what we've got coming up. So we were just going over our best of lists for
Yeah.
2024. We had the showcase just a few weeks ago with
Hmm.
Beck out there putting that together and then appearing on stage over there in Europe with Henry Stockdale. We've spotlighted dozens of projects across AR, across mixed reality and VR, and then we're going to spotlight some of our favorites. Uh, we haven't we haven't necessarily locked them in. We've got our
We're
choices.
getting
We
closest.
know what we
Yeah.
want, but now is an opportunity to speak up. We'll see you in the comments
Yeah. Oh
and
yeah.
tell us what some of your favorite things were that you tried in VR and mixed reality over the last year. What award you would give them, what category it would be established as. But call out a dev, support their work. If it's Behemoth because you enjoyed Behemoth over the last few days, now's the time. Speak up and say what your game was this year
Hmm.
that brought you back to your headset over and over again. You can leave that comment after the show as well in the comments post show. Um, like my 10 my sort of philosophy is like unless it's a big name thing that really feels like a grift for some reason, or like they're
Hmm.
misleading or lying to their audience about what they're offering, we can tend to ignore a lot of
Yeah,
the
oh yeah.
bad stuff in VR.
Oh
It
yeah.
just doesn't need time to cover it. What we focus on here is a lot of the good stuff and the things that really demand people's time. And we've covered a lot of those things over this show. Go check out Figmin XR. Go check out Maestro. Those are the beginnings of very big ideas that are very cool to play around with. And then Behemoth
Yeah.
is a level of artistry that you're not going to see, like a scale of budget that you're not going to see in VR very often unless the sales show
Hmm.
up for them. And
And
that's just the reality of where we are.
there, and again, not to break any embargoes, but the one thing, there is one slipping in at the end of the year.
Yeah. All right.
And
So that's yeah. So Don's hinting there at the next thing. Okay. So now so we've got a list of our winners for best of VR. We're still under embargo on a few things on a few places, and those embargoes are going to lift over the next 2 to 3 days. So
mhm.
we're gonna have our embargoes out. We're going to go off on vacation ourselves as much as we possibly can to enjoy the holiday season. And as ridiculous as it is, like I don't know, you guys don't really know us too well, right? Like you see us on these cartoon avatars. Maybe some of you know us in real life, but I know Don well enough now. Have we met in real life?
We have never met in real life,
But
Ian.
I've known him enough. I've learned enough about him over the course of this year to know that he, like Kyle out there and like Henry, um, we will all be putting VR headsets on ourselves,
Oh God, yeah.
as well as inviting our family members to put them on over the holiday season. Our friends that are visiting, we are, this is our opportunity to put these headsets on people and show them exactly what we tell our audience here. Go try Maestro. Go
Hmm.
try these things that prove that VR is what we said it would be, right? So we're going to be spending our time off in VR headsets. We cannot not do that. It's just
I just
silly
can't.
the way
Yeah, I
that
just can't.
works.
I just kind of
Um,
live in mine. So
yeah, Arlen is talking about Batman, so we do need to mention Batman
I
as an incredible game this year. Uh,
probably one of the most incredible games this year. I mean, depending on your, frame of mind. I mean, some people love it. So I did. Yeah, Batman is definitely a contender.
So here's my idea that I'm gonna spawn. I'm gonna spring on Beck here, spring on our audience, and spring on Don here live with our
Oh
audience. I
boy.
think what we should do. All
Mm-mm.
right, I think we should end the show here in a minute,
Beck's piping
and
up.
then hit end on the recording here, end on the stream, and then Don and I are gonna stick around here with Beck and record our best of conversation. So we will go through all of our favorite games, apps, mixed reality experiences from 2024, record that all for you, and then publish that as our embargoes lift over the
Hmm.
next couple of days. Probably in 3 sections, I think, is the way we will do it. We'll
Probably,
have
yeah.
best VR games, best hand tracking mixed reality games, and then some of our favorite moments of 2024 on specific platforms. That way we can highlight everything in the specific categories, and we'll publish those over the next few days as pre-recorded discussions, I think, on our channel. That's my plan, Don. That's my plan, Beck.
No,
How does
sounds
that sound
good.
to you guys?
Yeah, I'm up game. I mean,
All right. Let's do
yeah.
that. So we will close out this show, and you can look for those videos in the next few days as we cover our best of awards and some of our favorite things that we tried throughout the year. On all of those shows, if you disagree with us, tell us what you preferred instead, rather than tearing down, the selection that we actually went with. That's it's easy to do. Just tell us what your selection was and why you think it was the most amazing thing
Yeah,
in the world.
absolutely.
And you don't have to really crap on the selection that was actually picked by us.
It's
We
so
can
hard this
highlight
year.
2 things instead of one that way.
So hard this year. I mean, so many good titles to choose from. So,
DJ saying Asgard's Wrath gets really underrated. I do love that. That's an opportunity to surprise our audience here with one last little section of the discussion. I did not get this into my published Behemoth article first, but Henry went into an early version of Behemoth earlier this year, I think it was, and there was a whole crafting system built into
Yes.
Behemoth.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And he asked me to ask the devs at Skydance, where did the crafting system go? And they told me that it tested really, really poorly with
Really?
everyone who tested the game. And so they just redid the whole system and made it much, much, much
Huh.
simpler. And there's that story, right? Another like
That's
they're trying
interesting.
to make, like, you can't make everyone happy, right? There's some people that probably would have loved a really deep crafting system,
There's a lot of
even
people that
though
love that.
it
Yeah.
tested poorly. But
Huh.
I love that little bit of detail there that we can add there,
Ooh.
because Asgard's Wrath kind of had a similar sort of frustration for some people, right? You didn't it felt a little repetitive for some people
It,
going
it
across
did.
all
It,
those
it was
places.
gorgeous and cinematic, and I mean, for the first few hours. But then, yeah, I mean, when you get out to the desert and finally start playing the game, it got repetitive and long-winded. And I just I loved it, but I did kind of, God, man, I just want to get to the end. I just want to see how this ends. It's like it's just kept going too long. But
And Secret saying Asgard's Wrath 2, I go back to that game all the time. Still the best VR game of all, still one of the best games of all time. They should add behemoths in it. I
oh,
love
that
that
would be
idea,
awesome.
right? Like, is that what was missing? Is that the thing that would have tied it all together? If
Could
you could
have.
have flung yourself across the desert a little
Oh,
bit at 100 and
oh, that
300
would have been
miles an
great.
hour around a behemoth and gone on to another
So
area.
here's something interesting. D1360 VR mod of the year. Do we have that? Do we have a
Wait, it's not a
category for VR
category, but it's a
mod?
good idea for one.
Because there have been
Although
so many good VR mods this year.
it is,
It's a hard one though.
it's
Yeah,
such a system dependent thing
that's
though
true.
too,
That's true.
right? Like
I was
that's
just thinking,
like we
man,
have a
that's
couple
interesting.
PCVR game of the year is represented in a couple categories, and like even then, right? Flight Simulator 2024 is not on our list because of its teething issues, right? Like
Yeah,
it still needs to grow a little bit before we're willing to put that one on our list. And what happened there? You had a PCVR thing with a whole range of specs that could be served. Um, let's see, any other things?
I'm just looking
Yeah, okay,
through.
so I think that might be a symptom of various testing groups and orgs that are filled with the same group of hardcore VR vets who suffer from executive gamer syndrome.
Okay, okay.
Mm.
Yeah, that's a good point. Because when you do
Yeah,
get a lot of us together, I mean, we all have similar opinions.
yeah.
So,
Well, it was funny. Like I remember Pistol Whip came out, and I got it while I was going on a trip. I got access to it from the devs, Cloudhead
mhm.
devs, that had released it to some of their uh, colleagues in the industry. They had released early versions of the game, and they were all reacting really positively to it. And I had to actually take my base stations and my index across country, and I set up the base stations in a family's home and brought my PC across all this region, and I just instant click of this is badass, and you're right
Yeah,
back to the dev. This is amazing. I felt it
yeah,
instantaneously,
yeah.
right? Like you can still get that loop with devs where you tell them on a very early build, this feels right,
Oh, yeah.
and please give me more, right? Like it can happen.
Oh, yeah, you usually know from the base. I mean, like, when I even if I like, I'm playing some alpha games right now. Like, one I think we had it in our roundup, so I'll mention it. I'm planning on doing some coverage on this eventually, waiting for it to grow just a little bit more, but there is a really cool space game right now called Intersolar 83 that I am
Mm.
absolutely in love with. And just real quick at the end of the show, I'll give a rundown on it, and we'll do some more coverage on this. Henry's done a little coverage on it. It's a solo dev. Again, I know we love pointing out solo devs. This is the guy who did Go for Launch Mercury, and back in the day. And it's got this nice 80s aesthetic. The computer, you literally boot it up with a floppy, and it makes like boot up sounds, and you're just in this shuttlecraft, but it's literally starting to get borderline elite dangerous No Man's Sky vibes. I mean, this guy has literally just added vegetation and life to planets that you can land on. And
So Onikazi is bringing up something really interesting here, and James O'Loughlin, I think I was joking with you about this. So Figmin XR,
mhm.
the things that Figmin XR does have been done by other
Oh
developers.
yeah,
everything it's quite literally a big
It's not
part
new.
of the Figmin XR app that we covered at the beginning of the show is the code for an entirely different app, Tiltbrush, an app that got open sourced by Google, is part of what Figmin built. Like it's part of what's in that offer. And I bring that up just because, like, what's different, the reason we're calling it such an incredible app is the execution here
Yeah.
is at a level that you should take notice. Like you need to go notice Figment XR because things like co-location, when you do them right between a Quest 3 and a Vision Pro, your brain will click into another phase and you'll realize that this stuff is not only you will realize, the person you're showing the headset to is going to realize, holy crap, entire classrooms full of
Oh yeah.
kids could have a whole bunch of digital objects all floating around them like a playground.
Oh
And
yeah.
maybe that is something you want or have a use for right now, but it's still like it's executed at a level of quality
The
that
quality is
we need to
outstanding.
notice.
And funny thing is you were mentioning earlier holidays and us showing that is going to be the number one thing that I'm going to be showing people at our holiday party this year. Is
Yeah,
I'm
so
going to grab 2 Quest 3s or my Quest 3S and my Quest. Well, actually, I have 3 Quest 3s now, so I'm just going to grab a couple of headsets and I'm going to get people in Figment and I'm just going to let them play. You know,
Not Suspicious out there, the developer's
hey,
Veriface Defender, who we've used as a sort of poster child this year.
yes,
They appeared in our summer showcase, they appeared in our winter showcase, and you can see the design progression they've changed over the quality of development, just really enhanced
hmm
animations and graphics in that experience, and at the cutting edge there with hand tracking interface, right? I found
yes,
myself learning how to pinch really fast on some of those things, and
hmm
some of those weapons that you've got now in that game,
I love the update.
you can't pinch too fast. You've got to
Yeah,
time your pinches a
yeah.
little bit.
Well, and I was gonna say real quick, Famer True VR, solo devs have been cranking out some really solid apps. Convergence has been a real treat, and I've not played Convergence, but I want to comment on that. We need to do a show that just highlights solo developers. Yeah, I think that would be an amazing thing to do, and to just because there are so many of these apps that I'm seeing right now, Ian, that the ones that are truly blowing me away are coming from solo indie developers that are pouring their passion, their heart, and their soul into this work. And
Well, yeah, and it gets tricky because then you get contractors, or you get people that brought in somebody for one or two things, or you get
mhm,
even projects where somebody came in and then left, right? Like, how do you credit those people,
yeah,
especially when it's such a small team? But yeah, we do try to. Our developer of the year, I think last year, was Zach Chikalis Brown,
yes,
the developer of Vertigo 2 and Vertigo Remastered, and you can see the love that's the thing that I've heard from a couple devs, Figman in particular, Javier, saying
hmm
they're pouring themselves into these apps. Um, we pour ourselves into this show.
we do, and to
And
all
David
of our
Heaney
work.
has poured a little bit of himself into the studio as well. So we know that journey as well, a little bit from our side of things, what it's like to kind of feel one with your software, like why you do all these things. Anytime we lift up our seats, we oh god, no, we don't have legs. Sorry.
Nope,
We didn't mean to freak you
we're
out there, right?
Legolas. Legolas is yes,
That's
leg.
a decision that every developer out there has had to make one way or another.
Yeah,
How do I handle this problem that I don't have a bottom half, right? Like you just go to hands, you go to just everything all the way down. It is not an easy decision. We understand those intentions are hard to make. We hope devs
Les,
really
bro,
relax over the holiday season, take
I
a
just
break.
figured it out. That's why I feel gray because I don't have a bottom half. Sorry.
All right. Yeah, so we hope that devs, people want an improved studio. Yeah, we will get David Heaney on that as soon as he rests, feels better, and stops covering every bit of VR news in the world.
Right. Yeah, if y'all could
He
just stop the news for a couple of days,
yeah,
we could get a
you
lot
gotta
of stuff
stop.
done,
Just
but the
put
news never
the
stops.
yeah, just go rest, go rest. Let David rest, please. We need him. Beck, we need you as well. We hope you rest and recuperate. We all need to rest and recuperate. And get into those VR games. So look for our pre-recorded shows over the next couple of days. As we break down all of our best mixed reality things, pop into the comments of those shows. Even though we're not live, get the conversation
Mhm.
going, help those new people in VR with other ideas in addition to the ones we talk about. Get them good games out there to recommend for everyone. Anything else, Don?
Yes, and I'm not going to say the name of the game because, but do not miss the game stream this Friday. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah,
You
well,
will
that's
you
that's
will want to see this.
that's my secret plan here is when we go end this show on our stream, we're going to have we'll have a nice little discussion here, a secret pre-recorded Gamescast
Mhm.
where Don will get into his secret games and that discussion a little bit, and he'll get some of our best games of 2024. So thank you to everyone for tuning in for this show. Thank you, Beck. Hope you're feeling good out there and surviving. And to all of our audience out there, enjoy VR. Take care of yourselves and send some people to uploadvr.com over this holiday season
It's
or
not
become a
Star Trek.
member. We'll see you.
Bye.